One rainy afternoon, a man and a woman were arguing in the street in full view of everyone. The man seemed to want to leave his wife, but she didn't want him to leave. The man said no one could stand her, that she was a terrible woman and wife. Throwing her away from him, he got in his car and drove away. "Mama, Mama!" Her son ran up to her. "Your daddy doesn't need us anymore," she said to the boy. "You must remember. It was your father and that mean whore who killed your mother. You must avenge your mother," she told her little son. He remembered this incident as he grew up, remembering his mother who threw herself off a tall building. "It's time to avenge his mother," said Cheng Jing, looking at the photo of his father's son who abandoned him and his mother. Just this boy was supposed to come to his class, but he almost overslept and rode his bike as fast as he could to his tutor. When they arrived at his place, they met each other's eyes. "Hi. You finally made it," the tutor greeted his student. The student went up to his apartment, sat down at the table, and waited for his teacher, simultaneously looking around his teacher's apartment. The teacher offered him something to drink, but the boy refused. "If you show good results, I'll treat you to anything after class." But the boy was not uncomfortable with being treated like a child. "Well, to me you are still a child," said the teacher. "Let's talk about your situation. What subjects do you need to get better at?" The boy had problems with English, always having trouble with grammar. He wasn't doing well in math either. The teacher patted him on the head and said he would be fine. The student pulled out a notebook and they started studying. The teacher's voice was soothing. His gentle gaze soothed the boy. The boy wanted to sleep so badly that he fell asleep right in the classroom, and in his dream he saw his teacher's mother who wanted to get back at his mother. But then the teacher patted him on the back and the boy woke up. The teacher said he'd probably had enough for one day and told him to go home. When the boy left, the teacher picked up the phone and called some woman. He told her the boy was very good and could be used. The woman replied that the teacher should treat him well. Already at home, the boy was reviewing his test scores. Suddenly, his dad met him in the room. "I clicked him, Xiao Yu. Why didn't you say you came? You didn't even respond when I called you just now." The boy said he must have called quietly, and he didn't hear a knock on the door. Daddy said his company was having a banquet tonight and he wouldn't be home for dinners. So our boy is left in charge. One question. There's a PTA meeting this weekend and he wanted Daddy to come there. But his daddy was busy and told the boy to pass it on to the teacher. Already in the evening someone knocked on the teacher's door. It was Xiao Yu. He had sweat dripping from his face because he was running to the teacher and wanted the teacher to come to his parent-teacher meeting. But the teacher looked at his grades and thought that the boy just didn't want to tell his father about his bad grades. So he came here hoping to make the teacher his cover. But the boy replied that his daddy didn't care about his grades. His mother died many years ago. He hasn't had any contact with his grandmother in a long time. Dad is the only child in the family, so there is no one else to go to parent-teacher conferences except him. So, I can only turn to you. You're the only one I have. Do you really trust me that much? All right. You have to trust me completely. Otherwise, there will be no one left to help you get into university with. And no one who goes to a parent-teacher conference. The boy was very happy and said that he would do everything in his power. The teacher thought if already his student came to him now with the tests, then there is no need to waste time and you can sort out the tests right now. Already by 9 p.m. they had finished studying and the boy drove back to his house. The teacher then picked up the phone again and went to communicate with a woman who was sleeping with some man. Getting out of bed, she said she had other plans for tonight and would join him next time. When his mother was being kept, everyone around him was discussing him and his father. That he was very bad to his family and to his child. But the man with whom he stood by his hand said that he would protect him from now on. This was Memories in a Dream, Xiao Jing. At 10 o'clock, 23 minutes, his phone rang. He was unhappy that someone was calling him at such an early hour. But when he picked up the phone, he immediately went to open the door. It was the man who had held his hand at his mother's funeral. Sometimes he wondered if he had better not grow up. As an adult, he didn't seem nice at all. But Xiao Zhen was not interested in his silly talk, and he said, and that his friend would get to the point quicker. But the man asked that he couldn't just see him? He had only come to invite him to breakfast together. And he just wanted to see if his new student had come to see him today. Xiao Zhen didn't tell anyone that he had taken a student to study. And then he warned Sun Yunlang not to even think about stopping him. But the latter replied that if he could, it wouldn't take him 10 years to get rid of that hatred. He said that Xiao Jing was too fixated on his place and that he really only wanted to invite him out to eat. When they got to the restaurant, Xiao Jing once again told Sun Yun to stay out of his personal business. The next day, Xiao Jing woke up and saw a reminder on his phone that today was the parents' meeting. He remembered how he had promised his student to come to the parent-teacher conference. Already in class, everyone was looking at him and saying how handsome he was. When all the parents left, he went up to the teacher to ask how Xiaoyu was doing. The teacher replied that he failed math and barely made a passing grade in English. If this continues, there's no way he'll get into university with. Xiao Jing said that he would do the educational work with him, start today. Regardless of what results he will achieve. At this time, standing in the hallway, and overheard the conversation. After the teacher talked to Xiao Jing, he caught up with his student and told him to go home. Well, the boy was depressed because he thought that Xiao Jing was ashamed to listen to his student. But Xiao Jing pinned Xiaoyu against the wall and said that from now on, he didn't want to hear him say anything disparaging to his address. If you don't have confidence in yourself, you shouldn't have insecurity in me. Do you understand me well? Asked Xiao Jing to his student. After these words, they went to their teacher's house to tutor. In another class, when Xiaoyu turned the page of his notebook, there was an envelope with a love letter on it. He didn't want his teacher to notice it, so he closed his notebook immediately. But the teacher was nimble and saw the letter and took it from his student's notebook. Xiaoyu asked to give him this letter, but the teacher teased him so that he had to get up from the table and try to take away his powers. But what happened was that he pinned the teacher against the wall, then went back to his seat and started writing again. The teacher saw that Xiaoyu was offended and gave him his letter. The teacher apologized for doing that to him. And told him that he, too, had once been a teenager. And there is nothing unusual about receiving love letters of confession. And there's nothing wrong with a relationship. And then the student said that he had no idea how Xiao Jing could fall in love during school. Then the teacher replied that he too was a troubled teenager. And that if he didn't believe he could ask. When he was 14, he and his friends attacked another group of students. After that, they were reported to the police. He thought that Sun Yun would do nothing again when he came to pick him up from the police. But when he came, he slapped him and said, "If you think I'm someone to lose to, then get on with your life as you live now," told Xiao Jing of his youth. And he also added that he wanted to make one thing clear to him. No matter what happens in the future, you can share anything with me. I will help you and keep your secret. I swear. So, will you forgive me my jokes? And then the student said that he had no idea how Cheng Jing could fall in love during school. Then the teacher replied that he too was a troubled teenager. And that if he didn't believe he could ask. When he was 14, he and his friends attacked another group of students. After that, they were reported to the police. He thought that Sun Yun would do nothing again when he came to pick him up from the police. But when he came, he slapped him and said, "If you think I'm someone to lose to, then get on with your life as you live now," told Cheng Jing of his youth. And he also added that he wanted to make one thing clear to him. No matter what happens in the future, you can share anything with me. I will help you and keep your secret. I swear. So, will you forgive me my jokes? After their conversation, Xiao Yu went back to work. After a while, because he was tired, he fell asleep again. I again had a nightmare as if he was a little boy and saw his mother standing near a cliff. He wanted to run up to her, but she stopped him and said that she had killed a man. After these words, she rushed down. Xiao Yu began to cry, but then his teacher came, took him in his arms, and calmed him down. After that he woke up. His teacher had already made coffee for him and asked what he had dreamed. To tell about his dreams, so the teacher said let him tell when he was ready. In the evening, having dinner with his dad, Xiao Yu acted strangely. He asked his father why his mother killed herself. His father told you that she killed herself because she was suffering from a depressive disorder. After that, he told Xiao Yu not to ask him about it. After dinner, Vajie Yu went to his room to sleep but could not sleep at all, so he wrote to his teacher Chen. He told him that he couldn't sleep and that his father had told him that his mother had killed herself because of depression. Teacher Chen didn't want to respond to this message, so he just went to bed. The next day, getting out of the car, his friend Sun Yun called Teacher Chen. He wanted to ask him to go to a Japanese restaurant. But on the way, he noticed some red-haired girl. He remembered it was Chen's girlfriend. She was not alone with some man, and he realized she was having an affair with another man. Mr. Chen was on his way up with groceries to his house when suddenly he saw Mr. Sun Yun near his door. He asked him what he was doing here. Sun Yun replied that there was not much to do in the company, so he thought to stop by and eat with him. Upon entering the apartment, Mr. Chen said he would have dinner with him. Sitting at the table, Sun Yun was looking through the notebook of a student who had studied with Mr. Chen. The teacher warned him to stay out of his life. Then Sun Yun said, "What about yours?" Mr. Chen understood that his buddy came for a reason. He said that if he had something to say, then let him speak. Then Mr. Chen replied that he knew that Sun Yun had seen his girlfriend with another man. It turns out she was with Xiao Yu's father. Sun Yun was angry that Chen Xiao was doing this to himself, his girlfriend, and Xiao Yu's father. Sun Yun wanted Chen Xiao to stop harassing his father and leave his thoughts of revenge behind. Then he confessed that his mother came to him in his dreams and tormented him, demanding revenge for her. Sun Yun began to reassure his friend and told him that it wasn't his fault and that he didn't have to deal with it all alone. He asked him to stop before it was too late. When Sun Yun left, Teacher Chen was standing on the balcony and suddenly his phone rang. His girlfriend called him and asked if he would give up on his plan. Then Teacher Chen replied that he had planned everything for a long time and would not give up. Lying in bed, Xiao Yu's father wanted to introduce his mistress to his son. He said he had his own ideas about his mother's death. And now is not the best time to tell him about her death, because his entrance exams are about to begin, and so that he wouldn't get overexcited, it's better to tell him about it later. At this time, Xiao Yu ran to his favorite tutor. To please him, he bought him dessert. The teacher thought that he just wanted to make up for the fact that he failed his exams. But the boy scored 126 on the math rehearsal test and just wanted to please the teacher. Then the teacher apologized for teasing his student and started eating cake. Xiao Yu said that he asked for advice from a high school girl because he did not know what kind of cake to buy. The teacher then asked how the high school girls described him. Then Xiao Yu said that the girls think that the teacher is handsome, although he looks unapproachable, which is terribly annoying. After this conversation, they started studying again. Teacher Chen said that the exams were only a week away and that they had to prepare well for them. Lying in bed, Gray remembered the teacher's words, "There is only a week left, take it all from her." He thought it was a phrase. Suddenly, he got a message on his phone from his teacher Chen, saying he really liked the cake. So the day of the exams came. Everyone was very nervous and repeating the rules. All Yui was no exception. He also stood and read a book. Suddenly, he saw his teacher Chen. He was very happy to see him. Teacher Chen encouraged him and told Xiao Yu to do well on the test. Suddenly Sun Yun came up behind him and offered to go to his company to check on a project. They went into the conference room and watched as his firm's employees presented the project. Sun Yun asked Chen Xiao what he thought of this project. It was designed specifically to replace Lun Yan, who would bet everything on it and want to join them. This time, the work on the project has been carefully done. If no mistakes are found, everything will go well. Xiao Yu, who had just passed his exams, came out of school and saw that he had a lot of missed calls. He called back to this number. He was told that his father had cerebral palsy and that he was now in the hospital. When Xiao Yu arrived at the hospital, he saw his father lying in bed, with a mask on his face. The doctor said that he was in no danger now, but that his condition might worsen and he might die. Xiao Yu holds his father's hand and says that he has passed all his exams and is going to go to university. So he needs to get better soon. Returning home in the rain, Xiao Yu called Uncle Zhao. He asked why his father suddenly had a brain hemorrhage. Mr. Zhao replied that in the morning, during the bidding process, he was told that there were problems with the project. Someone had leaked information. In the afternoon it was found that several important documents for the company were missing. People from the bureau came to say that the company was suspected of financial fraud. Everything suddenly went downhill. Everyone is on edge. Xiao Yu asked who could have done it. He was told that no one knew, now inside the company, that his father's woman could have stolen those documents. Xiao Yu didn't know that his father had a woman and was very upset. He then called his teacher Chen and asked him to go outside. When the teacher came outside, Xiao Yu rushed to him and cried. Teacher Chen said that if he stayed wet like that he would get sick, so they went to his house. Xiao Yu asked Master Chen for something to drink. After a few sips he announced that he didn't want to continue his studies and go to university. Then Master Chen asked why he didn't want to go to university and what was the reason. The boy replied that his father was now in the hospital. He had a brain hemorrhage. The treatment would cost a small amount of money. And his company is in trouble. He wants to start working as soon as possible to support his family. Besides, he didn't have a setup to take his exams, and he took them somehow. So he didn't think he could get into any good university. Afterwards, he finished his can of beer, said thank you, and said he was going home. But Teacher Chen took him by the hand and said he would take care of him.